Morning guys, something a little bit different today. So every now and again I get emails, messages, things like that saying, hey, I've got some, 80s, 90s kit that I'd like to offload. It doesn't get used anymore, or I'm doing a house clearance, it's a bereavement or something like that, and there's some audio equipment that I need rid of. And one came up last night that was really local, so I thought that it's worth a look. Guy got in touch, said he has a stack of Sony equipment, a turntable, and some Pioneer speakers. It's like 3 minutes from my house. So I thought, well, it's worth going to have a look. This happens quite frequently. Sometimes it's worth looking at, sometimes it's not worth looking at. I think he said there's a turntable amp, maybe a tuner, some Pioneer speakers, bits and bobs like that. So I thought I would just do something a little bit different this morning, just document, go pick it up, go see what it's like, go and have a look at it, see what condition it's in. A lot of times when you have emails like this and messages, you get to the place and they'll have a lot more than what was originally chatted about. Maybe they'll have an old vinyl collection of vinyl that they don't need anymore or something like that. So it's always interesting to take advantage of these local things. Sometimes it's worthwhile, sometimes it's not, and you just got to take it case by case basically. So I'm going to pop in. I'm not going to video in the guy's house, I think it's a bit rude actually, but I'm going to just pop in there this morning, go and have a look at what he's got, and probably buy more things that that I don't need, considering the amount of gear that I have, and I'm not sure if anybody else is the same, but there's always plenty of gear kicking about. So I'm in the wheels of steel this morning. It's a nice morning, it's not too hot, it's not raining, which is quite nice for Scotland, and I'm going to go and see what this guy's got and see if it's worth something worth taking advantage of and sticking in the back of the car. So hopefully I'm going to pop around there now. I've just been popped in the shop and got a bit of breakfast, and I'm going to go and see what he's got, so stay tuned. Alright, nice looking place, nice looking day. Let's go see what he's got. Alright, so the guy wasn't joking. So what's interesting straight away is the fact that this gear is still boxed. So we have a TA1630 amplifier and a matching tuner. I presume it's a matching tuner, kind of late 70s we're looking at. And we've got the original stamp there from the supplier in Glasgow, which is nice. He said that it's followed him round since about 1981 when he bought it. Said he paid a decent wage for it. Sony Corporation Tokyo. We've got a PST1, which is a direct drive turntable, pair of speakers, which is Pioneers SZ75s. These were the upgrade to the originals, which is actually in a box in the back seat of the car at the moment. But we're all fully loaded up. Nice successful local pickup, and we'll get home and have a look at this and fire it up and see what it looks like, see if it sounds okay, and do a little bit of research into the speakers. And the original speakers are in a box right in the back of the car there, if you can just see. I've not actually had a look at the original speakers, it was just a case of boxing it up and getting it out of the way, because I think he wanted rid of it, his wife definitely wanted rid of it, and there we go, more for the shelves unfortunately. So let's get it home and have a look at it. So now we're all back in the house, everything's unboxed. We can have a bit of a look through the morning's haul, and the first thing we'll look at is the speakers. First thing to look at is what I can presume is the original speakers for the system, SS2030s. These are pretty heavyweight wood. I would say they are mid-sized speakers, average quality for the time period. I would say it looks like they've been stored in a loft or something. There was plenty of cobwebs. I've given these a little bit of a clean. I think that they could potentially do with a little bit of restoration and a bit of a clean up, so that might be a video in the future. These are, I'm not sure what I'm going to do with these. Probably put them in the garage, I think, to be honest with you. But as you can see, there's a little bit of damage to the drivers. There's some kind of splits there. So I think these are rife for a little project to restore and replace the bits that need it. But the generally in very good condition. Other than that, obviously that's just a piece of paper, and the other one's the same in the box. Grills are in very nice condition as well. They actually have this quite thick cotton bobble defect grills on them, which is really nice compared to the ones that basically looks like a pair of women's tights. And I'm quite happy with that actually. Generally I run speakers without the grills, but for these ones I think a little bit of a refresh, a little bit of a wipe down, maybe with a bit of fabric cleaner, should bring them up to the best that they can be. Moving on then, this set of Pioneers looks like an 80s replacement. These are SZ75s. These are pretty average 80s speakers. I think they're advertised as bookshelf, which I would suggest isn't really a thing. They're a little bit bigger than bookshelf speakers. They're about 35, maybe 37 centimeters tall. Generally really good condition throughout. Be interesting to have a little bit of a listen to these and see how they sound, but I don't imagine they're going to blow my ears away. I think the telltale sign with speakers like this is the cabling that comes with them. You know, if they don't have plugs on the back, they just have generic cabling. Usually it's a bit of a sign that they're the average consumer kind of speakers. But again, reasonable condition. They scream 80s to me, maybe late 80s, early 90s. Grills are average as well. The grills, I believe, are plastic, which is a shame. The ones on the Sonys are wood. The fact that they're boxed is quite nice, and I'm sure they'll sound fine, if I'm honest with you. We'll stick them back in the box for now and give them a test at the end. The fact that the original packaging is there and the polystyrene just adds to the charm of these ones. I think they're just like you would get them out of Tandy or Argos or whoever would have sold these at the time. Next for inspection is the tuner, ST73 Sony. This is a kind of a mid-sized tuner. It screams late 70s to me. I don't know the full details of it, but it has auto stereo, which I imagine is just basically stereo, and it utilises this tuning gauge there. And you've got a mute button, oddly, I'm not entirely sure why, and then your pretty straightforward tuning knob. Case on this one is actually in glorious condition. There's absolutely no marks on it whatsoever. Whether it's had a lot of use over its time, I'm not entirely sure, but we have connections there for our antennas. Weirdly, it is advertised showing you the ohms of the transmitters for the FM. Output left and right RCAs, and basically a kettle plug there for the power. I'm going to have to try and dig one out. I'm sure I've got one somewhere, but we'll plug that in as well once we get everything together. Penultimate unboxing is a TA1630 amplifier, still boxed. It also has a dealer stamp on there from Craythorne Electronics in Glasgow, Largs Whitehill, Dundee, and we have the serial number there on the box. It'd be nice if that matches the actual unit. I've not checked, but let's get this open. Let's have a quick look at what the date is on this. This doesn't look like a new Sunday Mail, January 20th, 1991. So potentially that is when it was boxed up. Maybe we can find something interesting in this. This is going back a little bit. It's been a long time since I've seen adverts for cigarettes, especially at £1.68 for a pack of Super Kings. See what's on telly tonight. We've got Highway, Big Harry Seacombe, bit of Murder She Wrote, You've Been Framed, and some Poirot. And if you're not into that, 8.5. I'm not sure if that's 8.50 or 8, half 8. Got some Lovejoy. And what's on They Never Slept. So we've got film. And then we've also got absolutely nothing on Channel 4 of interest whatsoever. American football at 9:15 in the morning. I love that. It closes at 1:30. I miss the days of waiting up until the TV closed. Anyway, amplifiers. Here we go then. So I would say this is matching to the tuner. It's kind of a medium-sized amplifier. Solid state. I think this is a 30 watt TA1630. Pretty straightforward. Late 70s amplifier. Tuner, phono and aux. And we have a tape selector and a volume switch there. What this is going to be like, I don't know. There's kind of something moving about behind there. I'm not sure if you can see that. So whether this is actually going to work is anybody's guess. Pretty standard fare on the back as well there. RCA inputs and outputs, tape selectors. These horrible speaker screws. Our main voltage selector. And again, kettle leads. They love kettle leads. And honestly, this is kind of the reason why I particularly wanted this bundle. This is a PST1. This is a direct drive turntable from Sony, and honestly, it's kind of like a budget direct drive turntable. I don't know what cartridge is in it. I don't know if there's a stylus on it. I don't even know if it works, but it is a silver plasticky kind of, I think, mid to early 80s direct drive system. 240 volt with serial number there. No further information. I have not even looked at this. This is the first time I've even opened this box. So let's see if what we've got. More newspaper. It'd be interesting if this is from the same day or even the same newspaper. No, Daily Record, July 29th, 88. And the guy, I presume, filed this in 1988 then. So let's get this out and get it uncovered. Strangely enough, the lid brackets were separate in the box. I'm not entirely sure why, but here we go. Oh, we have manuals, one sheet manuals. The washing machine is taking its sweet time on doing what it's doing, so it's providing a little bit of feedback. I'm trying to record in between its cycles, but that's nice. Got the manuals for each. Some kind of information sheet. Ah, that's the manual for the speakers. That's weird. Right then, so you're seeing this exactly the first time of me seeing it, so that's pretty cool, I think, and odd at the same time. So this is a direct drive. I think probably the more basic direct drive of the era. It for some reason has a bag of 2 caps and 2 transistors sat in it. I'm not sure if they're out the amplifier or out of the turntable. I haven't checked that far, but the lid is loose. Try and get the lid off without breaking it. And we have the original mat, which is good. This has got the original Sony head shell and, if my camera can focus, a Sony XL15 cartridge, which looks awful. I would suggest that stylus is toast. The dog's barking now. And everything's kind of secured with brown tape. The platter seems to be on transit, kind of, not screws, but transit trim or something, I don't know. But I'm going to disconnect all this and then try and just remove this tape and stick it together and see if it looks as it should. Now that I've removed the mat, these are the transit screws, which is pretty cool actually. It's not often you still see something as complete as this. So let's get them out and get this platter on and power it up. As I'm just looking at this, this is the good old method of plugging 2 cables into one plug, and this is a really nice brown Bakelite MK plug as well, but I hate that. That is just awful. My brother used to do this in the 80s, and yeah, that's fine, but that does provide us with 1 power cable, so that's good. So maybe I can just use a new plug and then we can at least get the amp and the turntable fired up. But with that stylus being as it is, I ain't going to put it near any records. Not yet anyway. Someone has wrote, not fused. We'll open that up and have a look and see if it is or not. So our stylus is absolutely toast. So there's one thing. I have to look around and see if I've got a spare cartridge or a stylus that we can use with this. This is, if I can get the light, a Sony XL15. Pure plastic, by the look of it. Head shell is quite nice actually. The head shell is also, I think the head shell is metal actually, but it's quite nice. Standard connections. So we can do a function test today, but maybe not a music test. Quite like that head shell. And see if we've got a cartridge that will go in there. Well, the plug is fused, so that's one thing I suppose, even though it says not fused. But let's split these down to just 1 item per plug, I think, and then we'll stick a plug on the other cable and fire it up and see what we get. Right, so a little bit cleaned up now. There's still some tape residue and bits and bobs. I think this is definitely in line for a bit of restoration. Everything works, everything's in reasonable condition, even this little plastic clip down here. But I've rewired this plug now. I'm a little bit happier with it. Weirdly, it's got some absolutely over-engineered bits of brass in it. But let's plug this in. So I think this is pretty cool actually. So we have a slow and fast pitch changer there. So let's choose, that's 33, and it's really difficult to see these marks, if I'm honest with you. There we go. No, I think we're there on the bottom one now. Look. This is not easy to align, if I'm honest with you. But we can have a little bit of a play with that. Maybe the pot needs cleaning. We're kind of getting there. We can have a play with that anyway. Reject. So that works. And then hopefully, if I were to simulate our record, even though we have no stylus, I'm not going to put it on there or anything. And we'll try that again. I should replace that back. Not bad. Pretty smooth. We're definitely going to have to look at this timing, but the marks are actually really difficult to see once it's spinning. Maybe they're just not big enough, but this needs a bit of a clean. A little bit of wet and dry should clean up the shiny metal and leave the black underneath. But yeah, all in all, not bad. So now we've got the hinges on. The springs are a bit rubbish. I think they need a little bit more torque or tension on them, because this lid it just wants to stay up. But otherwise, looking good. So we've got power to this. Let's power the amp up, put some speakers in, and see if we can get anything out of it. Final throws now then. So amplifiers, as you already know, I err on the side of caution for safety, and I always use my test lamp. So that's all lined in series there. I have turned this on and there's no shorts, but I like to leave that on anyway. It can affect the playback of the amp, so once it's up and running and sorted, you can feel free to disconnect it. Alright, so we're set up here now then. I've not set up the tuner, but I have put some YouTube studio music in there so we can have a bit of a test. I've also not used the Sony speakers just because I know that the drivers need repairing, but we can give this a bit of a test now, and I predict it's probably all going to need deoxing, but we'll have to wait and see. Yeah, a little bit of deoxit required, but I'll play something through it and see if we can balance the channels before it comes to removal and strip down and clean of the amp, which will all be each individual part of this, probably except for the tuner, because generally tuners are alright. It'll be a separate video, especially that turntable. I think that's going to be quite a nice little project. Obviously I can't really play this for you, but I've had a 70s playlist on this just for the fact that it's a 70s amplifier, and I'm surprised at how nice it sounds, if I'm honest with you, like, because I just didn't expect it. It's a really nice sounding thing. It's really clear and crisp. The bass could do being a little bit higher, but I think that's my input, if I'm honest with you. But not bad. So using YouTube Studio then, we just play that, and then we're going to get a bit of crackling. But both channels seem to be working really nice actually. It's a little bit lacking in bass, I will say. I have turned that bass up to 4, there you go, it goes up to 10, and I've knocked the treble down a little bit. Let's try a bit of loudness. Definitely got a little bit in that right channel there. This volume knob and the pot needs deoxying and whatever else, but in general almost identically as expected for the age and the lack of use. And watch out for the videos. Hopefully I can get the turntable up next give this amplifier a good clean and have a bit of a play about with all of it. So hope that's been fun. Have a look around near you. There's stuff like this dotted about all over the place, and maybe give it a restoration yourself. Bye bye.